We'll call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. If you'll stand for the pledge. Michael, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call a roll, please.
Keith Bratcher. Here. Joe Crowell. Here. Joe Machado.
Here.
Terry Sartain.
Here.
Michael Rather.
Here.
Jared Barrett. Zane Cantrell.
Present.
All voting members are present. We do have a quorum, sir.
You have the minutes of the last meeting before you. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes?
I move approval.
I have a motion to be approved. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. It is approved. We have one item of business tonight, so that's a real treat, and we'll try to move this as quickly as possible. We will first have a report from our staff, and following that we'll ask those who are asking for a variance to come to the podium here and give us any additional information you might have. Following that, we will have a public hearing for those of you who would like to share information about this request. We ask that you try to keep your comments within 3 minutes. And we do have a timer here, and she's pretty good at that, so she'll let us know about that. And I know we'd like to go on and on forever, but this board is studying most of everything that comes before us ahead of time, and we've taken a good look at it. But we would like to hear from you in any of your concerns that you might have. The first item and the only item is Zolia Zavia, is that correct? Okay. And this is a accessory dwelling, request for an accessory dwelling, and also for a 1 foot setback on the yard. So we have 2 requests before us on this. And what do you have on it, please?
Thank you. Application 2014-49 involves the property located at 4306 White Oak Drive, and it seeks special exception approval for an accessory dwelling unit that does not meet the design standards. Is that better? Okay. Application 2014-49 requests special exception for an accessory dwelling unit that does not meet the design standards for ADUs with variance relief of 4 feet from the side yard setback requirement for accessory structures for a property located in the RM residential medium zone. The subject property is a 0.70 acre property, and our zoning ordinance permits accessory dwelling units by right. There are only certain conditions for which accessory dwelling units are required to come before the board, and one of those standards that we have is to construct an accessory dwelling unit by right, you have to have a minimum of 1 acre. And the subject property fails to meet that requirement, and that is why they are seeking special exception requests. Now, the structure in question is a detached garage with a addition that was constructed in 2011, 2010 for storage area. Since then, this structure has been converted into an accessory dwelling unit without obtaining the appropriate permits. So once the applicant was notified that they needed to come to the zoning office by code enforcement, it was determined that they would have to appear before the board for special exception requests. Later, it was determined that there were some concerns about the existing structure. The detached garage was encroaching into the required side yard, and that is why this application was deferred from last month, so we could re-advertise the request to include the variance relief. Now, the structure in question is the detached garage, and it was constructed prior to the applicant buying the property in 2006. However, in 2010, the storage area was constructed on the back of this detached garage, enlarging the structure that was encroaching into the side yard, and therefore she needs variance relief for that. There are some concerns, and we have received many phone calls about the conversion of the structure into an accessory dwelling unit. There are some concerns from surrounding neighbors about the ability of the septic soils that are designated for this property and whether or not they can support the proposed accessory dwelling unit. We have spoken with the Department of Environment, and they have reviewed the record, and the applicant will need to obtain a permit from the Department of Environment even if they get approval tonight. The board here has no jurisdiction over the septic soils. That's the Department of Environment. It's a state office. We could not supersede that requirement. She will need to obtain a building permit, and as a requisite to obtain a building permit, they will have to have zoning compliance, and this is the portion of that requirement that we are seeking here, and then they'll have to submit the Department of Environment permit from the state office. So any approval does not eliminate that requirement, and there is a possibility that the existing soils on the property cannot support an additional bedroom, and they'll have to either modify the existing system, find additional soils on the property, or remove those elements that would make it individual dwelling unit to come into compliance with any codes. Staff does find that the application meets the criteria for special exception as well as the variance relief simply because the applicant did not cause the hardship or the encroachment that existed at the time of her purchase of the property in 2006. So I'm just going to go through some of the photos. We posted a sign on the property, and this is in the surrounding neighborhood and home sites. And this is the sign. It's in front of the home. This is the home in question and the detached garage that has the additional storage portion constructed in the back. And that is the structure that has been converted into an accessory dwelling unit. And this is just to show you the layout. This is where the additions exist on the property. This is a pool area. It's not all vertical construction. You have some paved areas that are shown on this, but it's not differentiated. And then that concludes our presentation.
Let me also remind everyone, this is not a universal approval here tonight. All we're looking at is one little facet of it. Even say the board approves this, they still have a long ways to go before they would be able to complete what they're trying to do out there. Now, do we have anyone here who's representing this request? If you'd come around, please. Those of you, yes. If you'll give us your name.
My name is Juan Zavala.
You have any other information you'd like to share with the board about this request?
Well, my wife owns the property. She bought it in 2006 with that existing garage and also with 2 septic tanks. I'm trying to speak on her behalf. Anything that you need to ask me, I will try to answer my best.
Hey, Jerry.
Yes, sir. Can you tell us about the addition that was made on, is the whole building where the garage was, is that an apartment or is the apartment just the rear portion of it?
It is the same garage that was built in '95 The only violation that I believe we made was that we built a storage 10 by 10 behind the garage, and we convert that into living space.
Both parts? Or
Both parts.
both parts are living space now?
Well, yeah, for our daughter, whenever she comes from college, her friends, yeah.
So no one lives in it every day?
Not every day. Christmas, spring break, and summer break.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Joe?
Is this going to turn into a rental piece of property?
No, well, not. We foster parents. We do take care of kids, and therefore we need that extra space, that extra room, so we can have our foster kid at home.
Okay. When you bought the property, did you know that it was real too close to the line?
No, we didn't know, and we're surprised because we did hire a lawyer, which is a 32 years lawyer here in Tennessee, in Mossbury Borough, and I guess we were misrepresented.
Okay. Have you done any construction inside the garage to make it living quarters?
We did add a drywall, yes, but the rooms were already there.
So the garage is already finished, ready to move into?
Yeah, my daughter's living there right now for another week.
Thank you.
Your microphone's not on.
Okay. Just got a question. If we approve this, and I'm just going to kind of relate back to what you said a little bit. If we approve this, they still got to go through what exists in there, and I guess it's for staff. They would have to go through codes. Everything they've done they would have to go in there and see if that's all been built to codes. And also the environmental would have to see if they have enough soils. If they don't meet any of those requirements by any one of those two agencies, then what we do here would just be null and void. Is that correct?
Unless you condition it otherwise, the approval would stand, and if they, for instance, find additional soils, whether it's acquiring additional property or locating additional soils on other portions of that property, I mean, it's still the ADU would not be able to exist unless it met the current codes, whether it's building or the Department of Environment. So for instance, unless you say that they cannot, I mean, if Department of Environment permit cannot be obtained, and you can cause it to expire, you can cause it to be established within a certain period. However, it would not relieve them of any other requirement.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to understand is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, in other applications, in other words, I don't know, we ain't got the cart before the horse.
Well, the reason the cart's before the horse is because it was converted before they received a permit for it. So they were addressing the code violation, which is the zoning violation. Typically, when people want to establish an accessory dwelling unit and they come into our office to inquire, we advise them to check with the Department of Environment, because it's meaningless to apply for zoning if the site can't support it. So you don't want people throwing away money for zoning applications if the site can't support it. But in this particular case, the work was already done, so they were trying to address the code violation, and they were told by our department and codes that they needed to obtain special exception approval.
And to answer your question, if you word it to where you want it to expire at a certain time, it'll do that. Or if one of those don't happen. Okay,
well, let me ask you this, and this will be for the staff. I hate to keep putting you on the spot.
All right.
But what if if someone decided to make a motion to approve this, can we make it contingent upon it meeting all those other requirements? Then if it didn't, then...
Well, it already is contingent. It's among the conditions of ADUs, you still have to have adequate septic. that's a condition of an ADU. And it's often like our borough pits where a lot of it's really, we can't determine until they get the zoning approval. It's one of those, so.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe.
I haven't understood. Does your mother live in this apartment now?
That's whom? My daughter. She's living. Yeah, she's here on vacation right now. Yeah.
You have a bathroom in there?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, bathroom. You said you had two septic tanks.
Correct.
One of those tanks was probably there for before you built the swimming pool.
Both of them was there already. Yeah.
Both of them was there already.
Yeah.
But probably one of those tanks was used before the swimming pool, and when the swimming pool was built, they had to put new fill lines or new tank anyway. Probably.
I cannot. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments on your part?
No, thank you.
Okay, you may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on it. If you'll come to the podium, come around to the podium, give us your name and any information you'd like to share.
My name's Bryant Towery. I live 4314 Teal Court. I'm about 150 yards from them. Discussing the two septic tanks, I watched that house being built. I have the first house that was built in that area out there. That house has two septic tanks because it's got a low grade lot level and it's had sewage and plumbing problems from day one. The original owners sold the house on account of it.
Are you opposed to this?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, thank you. Next, anyone else?
Dan Schmidt, and I live at 4224, which is the property just below the red section there. So I joined the side of the property where the garage is. And again, addressing the septic system, I have 2 acres, and mine has two septic tanks, but it's required because of the low pressure system that you have to have one tank to collect and another tank to pump from.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that there's 2 tanks there has no bearing on how many bedrooms you can have. And as I say, the reason I have 2 acres is because they could not get, Denny Hastings, when he built this, could not get approval for 2 dwellings on the 2 acres that I had. So he had to just include it as one piece of property. So my thought is if I can't get drainage on 2 acres, I don't know how we can get it on less than 1 acre. And then going on beyond that, and I am opposed to that because I think that the septic system will not take care of it. And I don't know that there is don't mean to contradict him, but I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the last names, but that there is a bathroom in that because I've never seen any work done to connect it, to dig out to connect it into the septic lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's a bathroom in there or not. I've not been into the
Well, let me ask you this. Is that the only reason you object to this is because of that?
No, sir. I think it's going to affect property values. If we open this up and one exception is made for this piece of property, it opens it up to the whole subdivision because anybody that comes in will probably automatically get an exception to do what they want to do with their property as far as the additional dwellings. And there were so many vehicles parked there. I think your picture indicated a portion of it, but there were 7 and 8 vehicles parked there, and it looked like a car lot almost, because they were out in the front yard and so forth. And it just really detracts from the property. And I know if I try to sell my property and that's there and that's going on, I'm probably going to have to cut my price a little bit to get it sold. And beyond that, you've addressed the garage, which was there at the time the property was purchased by these folks. But since then, they did build the one addition without permit. They had to go get a permit after I called because it was going to be built over to the property line, almost touching the property line. As you see the way it narrows down, the direction the garage is sitting, anything you build on the garage forces it to come toward the property line because of the angle that it's sitting at. But since that was done, there are two more structures that have been attached to that addition which come within 1.5 feet of the property line. And that's not been addressed at all by the committee in any way that I can see. There's a storage building that was built there, and I approached the people at the time they were building it, and they didn't like the fact that I approached them about it. Then they built another one, which is a roof structure, not closed in, but a roof structure. So you have both of those on the side toward my property line, which are within 1 foot to 1.5 feet of the property line. So we're not just talking about the 4-foot exception, we're talking about these other things.
Jerry.
Well, that was my next question. So more than what's been applied for here has already been built? Okay.
Keith.
I just got a question. The where they encroached, I guess they're asking for the 4-foot variance. Would that be on his side of the property? Okay, that's what I need to know. Thanks, sir.
Yes, it would. It covers the garage and the addition because we just put 1 foot. And so we asked for enough or advertised for enough to cover both portions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Now it's within 1.5 feet with the other structures that have been built.
The way the request is worded, that it goes up to 1 foot. The variance is of 4 feet from 5 feet, so that's a 1 foot setback.
So if the other two structures are taken into consideration, they're less than 4 feet.
Speak into the microphone, please.
Sorry.
Are you indicating to me that the structures are 1.5 feet off of the property line?
Yes.
The way the variance request is worded is the variance relief is 4 feet from the 5-foot detached setback that's required for detached structures, and we're asking for a 4-foot variance relief from that requirement to allow them to a 1 foot. So we had it covered in case, because we did not have a survey, we had it covered all the structures. Do you follow? 1 foot variance would cover a structure that's 1.5 feet off of the property line. A 1 foot setback.
I thought you were allowing them to go within 4 feet from the variance from the 5 feet that is normally.
No, it's 4 feet. 4 foot variance. Okay. Well, that's what the request is. Okay.
Right.
Put it that way.
So if they're closer than 1 foot from the property line, then it is more than what we advertised.
I guess I don't understand. I'm sorry if I'm taking too much time. I don't understand why it was worded to be within 1 foot if the garage was 4 feet away.
That's the request.
The way it's worded is a variance relief of 4 feet from the side yard setback requirement. So it's a 4 foot variance relief, so that only allows 1 more foot.
Any other questions? Okay, Joe.
I'm lost here. Is that building 1 foot off the property line or 4 foot off the property line?
It's about 1 foot plus.
It's 1 foot. Okay,
it's
so you're
not-
asking
it's
for
not
4
4
foot variance then?
Yes.
That's how it's worded. Okay.
The garage itself, the building that's going to be occupied is 4 feet off the property line. That's why I don't understand why you're asking for a 1 foot variance. Because they built the other sheds onto that additional structure that's on the back of the garage, and those come within 1 foot to 1.5 feet of my property line.
Well, we understand that. We understand that. Okay. Any other question? Thank you, sir. Next. Anyone else? Commissioner, good to have you here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board and staff. I too have received phone calls opposed to this from one gentleman who's not here, who's maintained that the original house has about 3 bedrooms, but when they redid the upstairs, added about 2 more bedrooms, and now this would make 6. I don't know that. I've never been in the house. But the main concern is the problems with the septic system in the past and what it could do now. So if you do pass the special use tonight, I hope that you would do something, what Commissioner Bratcher mentioned, was maybe put a time limit on it so that it would expire if they are unable to come back with the septic letter, which I think they're going to have problems doing.
You're asking us to deny this request.
Well, I think that's the preference of the neighbors, but if the board does approve it, then I would ask that a time limit be set, that it would expire, so that if the letter is denied, then this is not hanging around. But I think ultimately...
Are you asking us to deny the request?
That's my preference. But if it does pass, then I hope there will be a time limit.
Any other questions? Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this?
Good evening. I'm Janet Fineout, and I live at 216 McNeil Drive, 2 houses down. Our house is also on the corner of White Oak and McNeil. My question is, I was wondering how many people live there. If they said they have foster children, so I was wondering how many people actually that house will hold, and how many people that they can have in that house at one time, and what prohibits somebody else from turning their house into a foster home, or do they have to have a license for foster care? I don't know. And how many people can live there?
Well, those are all issues.
He brought that up, and I was just
those are all issues that we're not dealing with here. That would be state requirements on foster children. How many people you can have in a home would ask you how many could you have in your own. So, you know, there's no way that we can handle that. All we can do is decide whether we can give them a permit or not.
Okay.
Whatever.
Fine.
So you do have some good issues, and I appreciate that. It's just things that we're not able to deal with. And other agencies will have to. As I say, this is only just a small part of what they have facing them on this.
Right.
Septic tank, they've got to get state approval for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Good questions. I appreciate it from all of you. Any other questions? I'm going to close the public hearing if we have nothing else. Close the public hearing. We'll have a point of discussion on this at this time. Joe?
I've got a question. When people circumvent codes, are there any repercussions, fines, or anything to the effect when, you know, we continually hear of people coming here for a variance or whatever, wanting to fix something that has already been completed. They've already completed a building or added bedrooms or whatever to this garage that was already there without a building permit. Is there anything that gives them a fine or anything so we can try to maybe slow some of this down?
Sounds like a question for our attorney. And my answer to that is no. I've not known of one over the years.
That's my understanding as well. I don't think that typically there's a format or a procedure for finding someone for this, but again, that would maybe a question for codes or for staff more on that. So,
I believe that would be the case. Unfortunately, we don't have one from there. There may be like a double permit fee. I'm not quite sure, but that that would fall within their authority.
Well, can you ask the next meeting? Can you ask codes to enlighten us on what's going on with, what kind of
Work without a permit?
Yeah, what kind of repercussions can we give as a county to people that do this? And it continually comes before us all the time. So, if there's nothing, is there anything that we can put in place legally?
It would be probably at that building permit issuance stage, and I will check with Mr. Jones to see if there's something that they already have in place to address those types of violations.
Thank you.
Here's what I've found over the years, and I'll ask our attorney to talk on this a little bit or speak to it. We've talked about this for a long time, Joe, and in case of a violation that we feel is strong about, it has to be referred to the district attorney. We get over there with these kinds of violations, he's going to say, gosh, look at all the things that I've got to do, and I'm not fooling with this. So unless it's a flagrant violation of some kind. But, it would still have to go to the district attorney.
I just kind of echo what he said. There are matters that we've handled in the past that have been criminal citation type things. That's what he's referring to, that have had to go to the district attorney's office. Now, our office has been involved when there are codes violations as far as counseling codes and taking procedures to get people to come into compliance. But once it gets to that egregious state of someone just violating a code, it rises to something that we would turn into the district attorney's office for a criminal citation or something of that nature. So as far as a monetary fine, that would typically be handled by codes if they have anything in place, and I'm not aware or able to answer that. So
this is really a complicated issue that we have before us, and I'm ready to accept a motion if someone has one that they'd like to go.
Before that, I'm kind of echo a little bit. I just kind of have I know we've approved some ADUs here, but this one here seemed to have some problems right off the get-go. I know the garage, when they purchased it, it was already encroached, but when they added this this onto the back of it, you got to know if you're going to add something on, you got to have a permit. Anybody wouldn't know that. I don't know why they wouldn't. When you build something on your property, you have to have a permit, especially when you add into a structure. And then we're asking, for a variance for this 4 foot on that right there, which that's 1 foot off this people's property line. I tend to agree with the gentleman got up here. If we approve this, I know we take case by case, but that maybe that's going to open the door everybody just start building everything like they want to and get 1 foot off the property line, maybe even get on the property line. I just got a lot of. And another thing, I know I'm not certified with to put in septic systems anymore, but I have been in this county, and I know this is on 0.70 acres. And I know that that's a 3-bedroom house. And if you got perfect soil, it requires 100 foot per bedroom. Now, I don't know what their permeability of their soil is, but at the best, if it was a really great soil for this 1 bedroom that they're adding there would be at least 100 foot. Then you got to have a duplicate area. I just don't, by looking at where their septic system and everything's in the front yard there, I just don't see how that would that's going to be adequate. I know the state still has to come out and do that, but just by my past experience, I just don't think there's going to be enough soil there. But anyway.
You have a motion on it? Give us a motion.
I'm going to make a motion it be denied based on, I think, several things. I think they didn't have a permit for this ADU unit, encroaches on the property line more than the 5 foot, and that's it.
Too many bedrooms. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Be denied. We have call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher.
Yes.
Joe Crowell.
Yes.
Joe Machoto? Yes. Jerry Sartain?
Yes.
Van Cantrell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, it is denied. That is all we have tonight. Thank you for all of you being here, and we hope you all can go home and work out whatever procedures you need to continue. Thank you so much. We are adjourned.